My name is Holly Fitzgerald. I'm the Executive Officer of Kidsafe in South Australia. Many of you heard of our organisation or accessed our service from time to time. Yep, we're located in the Women's and Children's Hospital. We have a Kidsafe centre there where we have a whole range of information and resources available for parents and carers. We also sell a whole range of safety products for the home, and you'll see our stand just over the back there with some of those resources and safety products for sale. But we are dedicated to the prevention of unintentional accidental injuries to young children, particularly in that birth to 5-year age group where the safety of the child is solely reliant on the parent or carer of that child. So today I wanted to have a chat to you about what some of the most common injuries are that are occurring to children in that age group, what some of the more serious injuries are, how they're happening, and what we can do to prevent them from happening. And the thing is, you cannot provide a risk-free environment. Certainly, children will always take risks, and that's healthy risks, to challenge themselves. Certainly, there are obvious hazards in the environment that you can eliminate, and we'll talk more about that. So, the most common injury to occur to children across all age groups is an injury from a fall. So, are we surprised by that or not? No? No. Children fall all the time, don't they, really? Young children trip and fall, don't they? But certainly in babies and toddlers, fall injuries can be really quite serious. So very much at that age, with babies and toddlers, associated with their developmental stages. So the first time that the baby rolls perhaps takes mum and dad by surprise, and they can roll off something and sustain quite a serious head injury that way. As we know, babies of that age, they haven't learnt their defence mechanisms yet of putting their arms and legs out to break a fall. Babies and toddlers are very top heavy, aren't they? Their head is large in comparison to the rest of their body. So if they fall, they often land on their face or their head, and that can result in quite a serious head injury. And very typically rolling off baby change table, high chair, rolling out of the high chair, the bed, the couch, just for that split second, perhaps you've gone, just put them on the bed there and I just got to go grab my phone. And it might be at that time that they get a leg over and roll off. So really important, knowing the developmental stages, what is that next stage that a child will take, and making sure that that environment's safe, having them on the ground, not on an elevated surface. In older children, fall injuries are very much associated with things like playground equipment, trampolines, skateboards. By then, they know how to fall. They fall awkwardly and usually sort of fracture arm and leg fractures, and that's very, very common. The more serious injuries we put into 3 categories. So burns and scalds, near drowning, and these driveway runovers. That has been quite an emerging issue in recent times. Burns and scalds, so a burn is contact with something hot, flame, fire, might occur in the home, in the kitchen, reach up and touch something hot and sustain a contact burn that way. A scald is a burn on the skin from hot liquid or steam. Now, in babies and toddlers, scald injuries are far more common than contact burns, and it is typically hot tea and coffee spills is the number one. It's just one of those things. It's not necessarily leaving a hot tea or coffee on the bench or on the coffee table and the child accesses it, but sometimes it's just nursing them, having them in your lap or in your arms, and as they do, throw their arms out and it can spill and they can sustain a serious scald that way. So hot tea and coffee is absolutely the number one. Obviously hot water coming out of the tap, so in the case of the bath, so really important to check your hot water in the bathroom. Legislation in South Australia for any new homes built or any new ensuite installed requires the delivery temperature of the water to not exceed 50 degrees Celsius. So 50 degrees is what we consider a safe temperature. So to put that into perspective, at 60 degrees Celsius, so 10 degrees above that safe temperature, it would take 1 second to cause a 3rd degree scald to a child's skin. Lowering the temperature of the water to 50 degrees Celsius, the safe temperature, it would take 5 minutes to cause a 3rd degree scald. So that's enough time for the child to realise and withdraw, as opposed to it, spilling and scalding immediately. So when you think about that, 60 degrees Celsius, it would take 1 second. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Pour yourself a hot tea or coffee. You know, even 5-10 minutes later, it might be above that 60, and obviously above 60 is just an instant 3rd degree scald. So that really paints a picture. Is everyone aware of the first aid, of what to do if your child does sustain a burn or scald injury? 20 minutes, minimum 20 minutes of cool running water from the tap, continuously lapping over to cool that burn down. Really, really important. Minimum 20 minutes, nothing else, not ice water, not a pack of peas, not any potions or lotions. So cool running water continuously, you need to cool that burn down. All right, and then obviously on a child, a burn or scald injury, you would seek medical attention. All right, that's really important. And that can be, you know, first aid is administered immediately. It can be the difference between it being a more surface burn that will heal more naturally as opposed to it being a deeper burn that may require ongoing treatment. All right, very painful burn and scald injuries. I just want to talk about drowning. Toddler drowning remains the biggest killer of Australian children aged birth to 4 years. So in that real toddler age group where they have absolutely no concept of the danger. They love the water. They're drawn to the water. The most common location for a child to drown is in the backyard swimming pool. So probably no real surprises there. Common location, obviously the bath as well. We know that children can drown in the bath. Anything that can hold 5 centimetres of water and potentially fit a baby's nose and mouth is a potential drowning hazard. So if you've got little ones around, think about water that accumulates throughout the home. You know, people use those big buckets as dog water bowls. As I mentioned before, babies and toddlers are quite top heavy. If they fall into something, they may not have capacity to get themselves out. And if their nose and mouth's covered, then, you know, they can inhale the water onto their lungs. So, and it's just, you know, really important for people to understand that it happens so quickly and silently. I mean, I've had, you know, lots of parents tell me in our education and training that we do who have backyard swimming pools, and they're very vigilant about, you know, supervision, and they've got pool fence, but they do say, look, if something happened, I would know. Like, I would sense, I would hear, I would see. I just would know. When in actual fact, it happens so quickly. You put a baby in the water, eyes wide open, mouth wide open, and they literally sink to the bottom. All right? So, you know, very, very silent and quick, and they move quick, and we understand that. So the number one recommendation really to prevent toddler drowning is adult supervision. If an adult is there supervising actively at arm's length, that child cannot drown. I mean, you can have the best pool fence that money can buy. You can have the best little swimmer in swimming lessons, but it could be first aid knowledge. But if you're not there, number one recommendation is adult supervision to prevent that child from drowning. All right. Let's talk about the driveways. So driveway runovers. All cars, all vehicles have a large blind space. So, you know, when you're in your car and you're reversing, you can obviously see that there's another car there, there's a post there, or there's an adult there. What you can't see is what's happening down here, low and out, at the height of a child, behind the wheels and out. And that can extend up to 15 metres behind the vehicle, where you'd have no idea that there was a young child there. The visibility in the rear view and side mirrors, you can't. So all cars, not just the four-wheel drives, the bigger cars, all cars have a large blind space. So once again, it is about knowing exactly where children are when cars are being moved. The driveway essentially is a road. Cars are going to be coming in and out. It's not a place for children to be. Certainly, if you're the only adult at home and the car needs to be moved, just have them in the car with you. You know, then you know where they are. Otherwise, they need to be physically, you know, held. It's like the water safety stuff, the supervision, physically holding them as cars are coming in and out. And lots of families have completely restricted access from home and front yard. So, and then obviously then that's a safe place at the front for the children to play, and they won't be coming onto the driveway by using a barrier or a fence, you know. And it's also restricting the access from the home to the garage. You know, often we leave that door unlocked because the roller door's down, and that's your security. So children can access from the home, wandering, exploring, and get into the garage where cars will be coming in and out. Sometimes the parent doesn't know that they're there, but they followed them out. All right. Very, very devastating issue, because in many of the cases it is the parent or carer of that child that's driving the vehicle at the time. So it's about raising awareness as well, letting grandparents, carers know, and because not always, if you don't have your own children, perhaps looking for children in the driveway isn't at the forefront of your mind, as it would be, when you've got little ones around. Right, let's talk about, because I'm conscious of the time, an emerging issue. Many of you may have seen in the media in recent times, the little button batteries. The little round lithium button batteries, more and more common nowadays in household items. So some remote controls, scales, kitchen scales, bathroom scales, lots of household items. Very, very dangerous if a child swallows them. And with batteries, we often think it's perhaps the leaching of the battery acid, but in actual fact, the little button batteries, the lithium button batteries, the reason why they are so dangerous and can cause serious catastrophic injury if they are swallowed. And as we know, children put everything in their mouth. They're around 10-cent piece size. If it gets stuck, if it gets lodged in the child's esophagus, within 2 hours of it being lodged in the child's esophagus, in amongst the moisture and the soft tissue, it sets up this chemical reaction that essentially burns through the esophageal wall. So if it's lodged, often they can pass through naturally. It's if it remains stationary and lodged within a certain amount of time, up to 2 hours, it creates this chemical reaction that sets off an electrical current that burns through the esophageal wall, which can ultimately lead to catastrophic injuries. And there's been a number of deaths in the US and the first death in Australia earlier last year. So really important, and it's about raising awareness of that issue, because lots of people don't know that those little button batteries that they might see in the compartment, or they might need to replace, buy new ones, that they are a hazard. So it's about checking your compartments in your home as well, just to make sure that they're secure, and then up and out of the way, so that they're not got to be accessed by young children who can potentially swallow them. And obviously, even if you think the child has swallowed it, you immediately to the emergency department. Do not wait. Waiting, it can lead to increased exposure and cause more damage. So they're the little button batteries. We've got a little brochure about that over at the Kidsafe stand if you want to know more about that. All right, what about, are there any other issues that you'd like me to cover? In terms of various safety products for your home, obviously lots of cupboard locks and latches, tap protectors, stove and oven knob covers. We sell a whole range. We've got a home safety checklist, which is a really good start, because a lot of things in the home children may not be obsessed with, with touching certain things, but they might be. So we've got a home safety checklist that enables you to do a bit of a mini inspection of your home to spot potential hazards. Otherwise, you can always come and visit us at the Kidsafe Centre in the Women's and Children's Hospital. Like I said, we've got a whole range and lots of information and resources which can also be accessed from our website, kidsafesa.com.au. All right, I think we've covered most things. If there's no other queries. No, but thank you very much, everyone, for coming to today's session. It's a very important topic. And like I mentioned before, it's not to be alarmist. Children cannot provide a risk-free environment, certainly, and that's not what it's about. It's not about bubble wrapping our children. It's about eliminating the obvious, or being aware, raising awareness of the obvious hazards in the environment that could result in a serious injury. All right. Lovely. Thank you, everyone.